blend, blend everything, blend, 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 do blend. Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Michelle is my name. If it's your first time here, hi, welcome. Grab a seat and let's get into this foundation routine. This is my version of a long wear foundation routine. It is by no means an SI unit. This is just how I like to do it. Let me know if you have any tips and comments in the comments for how I can do it better, or you know, just sharing is caring. All right, let's get straight into the video. So before you apply your foundation, you have to know that your skin is the most important part and you have to take care of it. So you must remember to do your serums and do your moisturizer and your sunscreen before we go in to the makeup part, just to prep your skin. Now, before you choose what primer to use, because again, that is part of prepping your skin, you want to know what type of skin you have. So there's oily skin, dry skin, and normal combination skin, and that is what I have. I have normal combination skin. So today what I'm going to use is my Fenty, actually what I've already applied on my face is my Fenty Pro Filter. Is it Soft Matte? I think that's what it's called, Soft Matte primer. And I use that around the perimeter of my face. And then there's this primer by Farsali called Skin Tone Blur. I love this primer, and because I have texture in the middle of my face, I have a lot of pores in this area and just texture basically, and I feel like it really just calms down the texture and really blurs your pores and just your skin and makes it nice and still keeps it hydrated. Now if you're oily, you could opt to go in with a mattifying primer around this area or any area where you're really oily, because then that will help you control the oil. After I do that, the second thing that I consider is the tool that I'm going to use to apply my foundation. Now, before I go in with foundation, I like to put powder on my primer, just so it can again control oil in these areas where I have said I'm a little dry. I'm a little oily, not dry. So lightly, I will use a loose powder and just place it in these areas here. And like I said, I use it very lightly because I don't want it to be cakey eventually. Okay, so the next thing that you want to consider is your foundation shade. Now, before you consider your foundation shade, you want to think about what type of foundation will go with your skin type, because there's mattifying foundation and there's glowy, hydrating, dewy foundations. So you want to choose what will work for you, and then after you choose the formula, then you want to pick out your foundation shade. So my best foundation shade I feel like is the Fenty Pro Filter in the shade 440. The undertone of this foundation is not very flattering because it's a bit cool. It's too cool, it's a bit more on the cooler side, but the shade I feel like is kind of perfect for my skin tone. What I do, because I feel it's not warm enough, I mix it with my natural Radiant Longwear foundation from Nars, and I just take maybe just one pump of this and maybe 2 pumps of this, and then apply that to my face. So today I think I will be using a brush. I prefer to go in with a sponge typically, but I feel like a sponge takes a lot of your product, so I choose to go in with a brush first and then I will go in with a sponge. When I'm applying the foundation, I will start at the outer part of my face because I'm going to put concealer or highlight in this area, so I try not to start with that part. Also, what you could do is you could color correct. I don't really feel like I have much to color correct except in this area, but if you have any acne scars, if you have any darkness around your mouth, I would advise that you color correct. You could either use an orange corrector or you could use a skin tone concealer. Whatever it is that you prefer, do that. Okay, so once your foundation is on, you could go in with the skin tone concealer that I spoke about, just to conceal and correct the darkness in the areas that you feel you need to cover. You could also do this before. You don't have to do it after. I sometimes just choose to do it after, because when I feel like when I finish with applying my foundation, that's when I see the areas that need a bit of work. So I'll just get that area. So after you're done with your concealer and you're happy with how it looks, now I just want to also mention, I forgot something. When you go in with your foundation, you want to try as much as possible to avoid putting foundation in this area, because again, you're going to go in with your concealer and then your highlighting concealer. So try and not put too much product in this area under your eye. So now what I'm taking is a foundation. I choose to highlight with a foundation because, like I said, this is a long wear tutorial, and I feel like if you do a concealer, sometimes it kind of cakes if you wear it for too long. I mean, I know people say there's long wear concealers and all that stuff, but I prefer to go in with a foundation instead to highlight. So that's what I'm doing here. This is a Fenty foundation. I think this is a shade 400. Or is it the shade? Yes, 400. It looks a little orange. So I'm going to mix it just a bit with just a bit of my Too Faced concealer in Chestnut, because it's a little more yellow. So I'll add just a bit there. I don't want to put too much because I feel like the concealers really add onto the caking and everything else. So then I'll pick up my sponge and blend. If you choose to highlight with a foundation, you want to be quick. Depending on the foundation, the Fenty foundation dries quite fast, so be quick with your blending. If you're using a concealer under your eye, then you can let it, depending again on the concealer, you can let it sit just to give you more coverage. I don't feel like I need too much coverage because I already put the skin tone concealer underneath. And it seemed to cover fine, so I don't think I need too much coverage. I used to bring my concealer down to this area, but I don't do that anymore. I feel like sometimes it makes my the shape of my face look a little weird. So whatever I'll have left on the sponge is what I'll probably just, you know, kind of dab in this area right there. So just kind of blend it out. And you can just add as much as you need as you go, depending on how much brightness you want. So I don't like to do too much highlight, so I don't go in with like a really bright tone, but you can if that's what you like, if that's what you prefer. And then I'll just go in this chin area, and don't forget to blend right there. I do that sometimes. I forget to blend this area. So once you're done, again, just fill it in, add as much as you need in the areas that you feel you need more. Oh, and another tip I forgot to tell you guys. Actually, one thing I do when I'm blending out my concealer or my foundation in my highlight area, I apply the skin tone blur again, just a little amount, very small amount, and then I use it to blend. You could go with as much as you want. I just remembered that I forgot to show you guys. So the next thing I do is that I contour, okay? And sometimes I don't really contour with the liquid. Sometimes I just do it with powder, depending on how quickly or just how I feel on that day. When I contour, I'll just use any concealer shade that's darker than my skin tone. I'm using this Makeup Revolution concealer in the shade C18. It dries really quickly, so I try to go in as fast as I can. I apply and go straight into blending. I feel like sometimes this concealer doesn't spread out nicely or as much as I would like it to. So I think I'm going to change and get another concealer for this. I feel like it's not as creamy as I would want it to be. So after I'm done with that, I go straight in with my foundation brush and blend it before that concealer dries out. Just basically blend everything in together. So there are no lines on my face. And then I will go in this area. And I start very small and then build up as I go. Always do that. It's easier to add than to try and take off product that is already on your face. And I blend it upwards into my cheekbone. And when you contour, you want to just bring it all the way till around there. You don't want to drag it all the way down. It's not supposed to come all the way into your face. So it's just literally supposed to be right there to create that cheekbone, and that's all it's for. So don't bring it all the way to like your mouth. That's not a good look. Anyway, so when I'm done, I'll go in with my foundation brush again and just try to even out everything. So once you're done with that, it's now time to go and set your under eyes. Again, we'll pick up the sponge that we used and just make sure we have no creases under the eyes before we put powder. You want to look up and blend under your eyes. This step is really important because if you set when you have lines, you know, wrinkles, and the product has settled in it, you'll have caking before you even step out of the house. You have creasing, not caking, you'll have creasing. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. And then I'll go in straight with my powder on the other side of the sponge. Just take off any excess. And look up again and set. And then I'll set the rest of the places where I put the concealer. I'm done setting the areas that had the concealer or the areas that I wanted to highlight, and now I just want to slightly bake. Now, I don't typically bake, okay, and I don't bake too much for too long, so I'll just put powder in those areas. My baking powder is different from the one that I just used to set. This is a little bit brighter. It's actually a mix of two powders, RCMA and Sacha Buttercup. And I'll just put just a little in that area. So I know it looks like it's a lot, and it is a lot of powder. However, I don't leave it on for too long. As soon as it's on, I just bake for a bit, and then I take it, brush it all off. The one thing that you have to remember before you bake is you want to have set that area with a powder, because if you put powder and then try to brush it off when the stuff underneath was still wet, then it will definitely move your foundation around. It will transfer, it will pick it up. So set first, lightly, and then you can bake. And then I'll just get this area here, because I haven't done too much of an eye look, just to lift up that eye area. So after a few minutes, maybe like just 2 minutes, I'll brush this off. Brush it all off. And I'll typically just use the powder that is on the brush to just kind of set these areas as well. So brush this off. Make sure you get everything. And then just kind of press that powder that's left in the brush in these areas. Okay. So once I'm done doing that, I'll pick up a puff and a skin tone powder. You could use any. Today I'm using my Sephora. This is the best one. I love this one. And just pick up a little and go brush the areas that do not have the bake, that did not have the bake, that you didn't set before. And also kind of go in this area as well to just blend everything seamlessly together. I'm sure you guys get tired of that word blend. Blend everything, blend, 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 blend. Do blend. I know, but it's a real thing. You have to blend. Just make sure you set that area. Alright. Okie dokes. So when we're done, when you're done setting, then now you can proceed to powder contour. Now because we already did the cream contour, this is going to be really light. We're not going to do too much. I'll pick up my Smashbox contour kit, and I'm just slightly mixing the contour shade with the bronzer shade. I don't want my contour to be super harsh. If you like your contour really harsh, then you could go in with a darker color to make sure it shows up. This is what I prefer to do. And then I'll just drag it in my temples or to my temples. And we'll just do the other side as well. So once you're done with contouring, you again pick up the blending brush and you blend. Okay, so always after you apply anything, pick up your blending brush, just go around and blend everything together. So that looks good. Then now we'll go in with our setting spray. Again, today I'm using the Morphe. However, actually, you know what? I'll use the Morphe first, and then I'll go in with my Decay All Nighter spray, because this is a long wear foundation routine, so I do want it to last all day all night, and so I'll go with this first. Alright, and then I will go in with my Urban Decay. And then I will go in with my Urban Decay, and just not too much, just a bit. And then just fan it. Pick up anything to just fan. And then what I do after that is I pick up my sponge. There's so much powder on it. So you could use another sponge. My other sponge is not damp yet. So I'll pick up my sponge and let it settle in for a while, because if you go in with a sponge to kind of pat everything in place and the spray is still very wet, it could pick up the product, the foundation or whatever it is on your face, and kind of leave you with a patch. So even as you go in with the sponge, you want to lightly tap. Just lightly tap. We're just tapping everything into place. We're not blending. We're just tapping the powder, so the spray, so it can settle in our skin nicely. And because sometimes if you look closely, you'll see that you have like a bit of hairs, or I don't know if it's hair or it's just texture on your skin after you spray. So doing this makes everything just kind of settle and lie down, and makes everything nice and flat. And then you're also kind of spreading the setting spray in areas that it might not have reached for whatever reason. So as you tap, you're doing that as well. Okay, now once we're done with that, we don't want the spray to be too dry before we go in with our highlighter. And then I'll just this area here, and on my nose I think it's best if I use a fan brush, because then it will be nice and even. Alright, and when I'm done, I will pick up the brush again and start in this area just to blend everything together. When I'm done with that, I'll go in with my bronzer again to blend the highlight in that area, just so it's nice and all put together. Okay, so now just to finish this look, I'm going in with my Nars blush in the shade Gulu, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And I'm just going to put it right there, just a bit. It's a pinky shade. So this is the final look. And I decided to pair it with a nude ombre lip. This is the ColourPop Limbo and Beeper in the matte formula. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, if you have any tips and tricks that you'd like to share with me. And I guess I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye. God bless you.